What kind of flowers are these?
Zinnias.
Zinnias.
Here's the other part of our fall garden. This is what we'll be harvesting right now.
Wow.
For the next couple of months. We got the succession planting. There's our beautiful romaine lettuce, which will go away fairly quickly with the new scare.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Corporate agriculture is, it is.
We got a lot of pollinators now. A lot of bees, a lot of butterflies.
Keeping everything busy.
That's really good. A lot of micro life and
Microbes feeding the soil.
yeah.
Yep. We're not here to feed plants, we feed the soil. And as you know, we create all of our own compost on site too, through our food rescue program.
You have a CSA?
Yeah. We have 2 or 3 of them going, usually pretty much year round. Citrus trees, hop fields, stone fruits. We're converting the greenhouse for a winter chicken home. We'll move our chickens out of Chicken Town, and that will be our spring tomato plant.
Awesome.
And then once we're done with that, we'll move the girls back over there. We move them around as much as we possibly can, let them do their thing for bugs and keep scratching the dirt and keeping them free range. Yep. Here's Banana Row.
Yeah, cool road.
Just got it trimmed up. We're guessing probably somewhere around 150, 200 trees. Wow. I started with 4 bananas, but that was about 8 years ago.
Really?
We just kept going. These are all just transplanted when we moved in.
Oh, wow.
So it was 1 banana or 1 tree
per
crown. As you can see how well they've expanded.
Really well. They look so healthy.
Yeah, got them on a drip system. Now with the cooler weather coming too, they'll start dying back.
Oh, okay.
And we'll throw a bunch of straw around the crown to make sure it stays nice and toasty warm so the root ball doesn't get affected.
Nice. We use a lot of the banana leaves as mulch.
Well, we do. The chickens love to eat them, but believe it or not, Aaron, the banana leaves are a great seller for us. So
cool.
we sell banana leaf cases to our distributors. Comes 40 leaves to a case. So the value in this tree to us is in the leaves. When we strip the leaves.
Look at those bananas.
Yeah. These are ice cream bananas, or a blue Java. Got them on a drip system. You want to poke into the greenhouse?
Oh, yeah. I know that's just the vine, really.
Yeah, they're all picked. Although we see some other new cones coming out, so I was kind of curious. And I remember telling you, this is our first year growing these, so we're kind of, it's been a huge learning experience for us.
It's really cool.
But the brewers jumped all over.
Yeah.
And they picked them all up. We didn't get the yields we were looking for, but then again, it was our first year and it was experimental, and we were hoping now that this next spring, the hop crowns, when they pop up, will get a much fuller and bigger plant. Yeah, it's actually a cannabinoid.
Really?
Yeah. It's got a nice rhizome crown to it.
Yeah.
This is what's left over from spring, summer. We did tomatoes in here. We did radish. As you can see, they're all dying back. We did basil in here, edible flowers. And now it's just all perfectly set up. When we put the chickens back in here, they'll just mow this whole thing down. And it'll give them a nice warm home for the winter too. Eggs. We keep their eggs. We're not real big on killing animals around here. And our audience is talking to us. And I'm sure they're hungry right now too. But we planted these cattail, trying to see if we can get them to catch. And they're doing okay, although the ducks are kind of, you could tell what damage they do. They're making their own pond right now, so they're breaking down the sidewalls. We put a liner in these. I've still got I had 2 of these. These are the old catfish tanks. So we put those in there, but they're going to build their own ponds by the time they get done. Now we pump this water out probably about once a month, and then we'll spray it on the trees and on the ground, and we'll put it in the compost pile too. It's a real super high nitrogen source. The one thing I don't like about the particular ponds is how many eggs get laid in the water. Obviously, we have no way of getting those out, and we really don't know how many there are under there. But we know they're doing it because when we put them in water, there were so much less egg production.
You got to get like a pool scoop.
Yeah, I don't. Well, that thing's about 6 feet deep. I don't know if we'll ever get down in there and get all those eggs out of there. When we pump it down, it's just you look at what's at the bottom and go, oh my gosh. I mean, not only there's
there's no way to know what's in there.
Yeah, there's a black muck down there, but yet then again, that all of the eggs that are sitting down there, it's like, oh gosh. This is our tea brewer. I'm a big believer in vortexing, so we've got these cone tanks that will spin the water right, which will build energy. And then our water wagon down below it reverses that, spins it the other way to expel energy when we're actually putting it in the fields. So the goal here, this is plugged into our well. We'll fill it up and we'll get it running. The neighbors call it the Queen Creek fountains.
This is your compost tea?
Yes. You want me to start over again?
Yeah.
This is our compost tea brewer. This thing will hold about 2,000 gallons for us. It's about what it takes now to do the entire property for our brewing. When I first started with these, we just started with 1 tote. But this place is a little bit bigger than the last one, so we had to expand it. And we vortex our water for energy. Right spin it to build energy, left spin it to expel energy. Takes about 3 days to do a good brew. We test pH. Been very blessed to know a guy named Jerry, a local man in town who does some custom blends for us when it comes to humic fulvic. And molasses, food grade molasses involved, and then as I told you earlier, I will usually throw a couple of gallons of raw cow's milk in here too, trying to get the bacteria, the lactobacillus bacteria. Another key element for us with the bamboo too is EM1, a very popular product that's sold down in Tucson. And it's also, I think it started in Japan somewhere, but it's isolated just one lactobacillus bacteria. Very, very good water agent. But I did learn from a friend up in Portland, Oregon, who is real big in the cannabis industry, turned me on to soaking bamboo shoots also in a compost tea bag in here, because the bamboo shoots will have 35 lactobacillus, different types.
Oh, wow.
And it all comes from our soil here. So I was really intrigued to find out if I could, do the same. And
how does that work?
Well,
what do you do?
Well, you dig up the shoots. You can also eat the shoots of the bamboo, but you basically just dig up the shoots, put them in a Ziploc bag, and soak them. And then I sent that sample to the lab to see what was in that sample. And I'll be danged, I think we had 31 different types of bacteria in it, and I was like, holy cow, this is very cool.
That's really cool.
So now when the bamboo is shooting, we'll grab bags of it in our compost tea, and we'll just put it right in the compost tea bag with the compost.
Oh, wow.
And then soak it for the 2 or 3 days. This is the moringa. what's left of it now that the summer's come along with it too. The cold weather is starting to take its toll. We'll go through and strip these leaves down. Yep, get the good stuff, get stung by the bees. And then we'll dry it into a powder. These flowers are beautiful in tea, very sweet. Now this is what's left over from the spring plant here. So we've got our eggplant, our chilies. We've still got some of the leafy greens. You're staring at some beautiful rosemary right there. I love the smell of this stuff. Believe it or not, we'll pick all those chilies off of there, and then we'll dry them in the sun. Really? And we make a chili powder, and we sell the chili powder by the pound. So it's going to have 4 or 5 different kinds of chilies in it. We don't discriminate here. Very flavorful. It's got a nice kick. We call the chili powder Respect.
Respect.
Because after you eat it, you'll certainly respect it.
Yeah.
Our food rescue program is we basically collect grain from the breweries, coffee from the coffee shops. We have partners with our restaurants, and we'll get lots of their kitchen scraps. And we'll work one end of the pile all the way across. We're doing about 4,000 pounds, 4,000 to 5,000 pounds a week right now. In product, yeah, it does. You know, I agree. Although some people don't like that smell, I'm a big fan of it. But if you can get in here, see the color of this, the darkness, and if I dig deep enough, we'll find all of this beautiful white. Yeah, it's a mycorrhiza. It's not mycorrhiza, but it is a fungi. We do build a fungus pile. All the spent mushroom bags from our gardens go in here too. So when you're in here turning it, you'll run into these white roots just plowing through, and it's just So everybody that works here, I keep telling them, as long as you guys see that white coming up, this pile is working perfect. Yeah. But you can see the grain in there, and so when we get the grains from the breweries, we've got all that beautiful sugar. Yeah. Some proteins left, not much, but the coffees, and then all the veggies. So
yeah, it looks really good, and it smells amazing. I pay attention because at least when you're managing a much smaller one, you can go by your nose.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, see, here's the whiteness that I was talking. Here's a perfect example of the fungi, and that's just throughout the whole thing. I wish I had a little bobcat where we could just assign one person to turn it every day, but to turn this pile it's a 4 or 5 hour job, and it's a lot of work for our little farm tractor too. Regenerative agriculture. Not only is compost life, but all the fungus in the compost. See that beautiful color? We'll get a nice hot steam out of it. There's a nice load. Beautiful black soil, just the way you want to see it. There you can see the steam coming out of it. Pile runs at about 140 degrees. If it gets any hotter than that, we got to break it down. We got to spread it out so it will cool it off. Even though it's the dead middle of winter, you can see how moist this pile still is too. Catch the steam coming off of it. Compost maker's dream right here, you guys. This is the same soil that we're going to use to brew our teas in. So we've got the living microbial life. Look at that beautiful color. I know you can't smell this, but boy, does it smell great. See that steam coming out of there? That's microbial life working. Isn't that freaking gorgeous? It's still 70 plus degrees outside Fahrenheit. And the deeper we dig into this pile, the more and more steam we will expose. Beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? You want to bring a smile to a farmer's face? Show him some black soil. And then you got to think about what you're doing, because you want to keep the chunky at one end and the fines at the other end. And even though what we call fines aren't really fine, right. What we do is, I'll show you over here, we're just getting some winter gardens started for the January, February harvest. And we have found a long time ago that when we mix the compost in with this, the desert soil, which most people consider as dead soil, it's not dead at all. It's loaded in mineral. You give it some organic material, like what's coming out of the compost pile, and everything just jumps to life, and water, of course. At my last place, which we called the ranch house, we got this loamy topping to be about 14 inches. Here we have a bit, that was 5 years worth of work. Here we're just barely at 2 years. And we've probably got 6 or 8.
For what?
6 or 8 inches of the cover.
Oh, okay.
Of the compost. So you can see down here, we're still fighting grass, just like almost every other farmer in the valley. Yeah. But we'll basically, so I'm tilling. This all was the melon field earlier this spring, so we had a lot of grass in the melon. Hopefully eventually we'll get to a point where we can stop tilling, and then we can just fold it with forks, or what they call a broad fork. But we'll till it into and then we'll do the bed shaper, and then we top dress the rows with humic acid, which is it's a powder, it's a time release powder that we put on. And then we put in the micro misters, and this is all seed in here. And now we're just patiently waiting for it to germ under this beautiful warm weather, this warm winter that we're having. And so it's all done in succession. So obviously that will be the first that we will harvest come January, February, and then we'll just work our way down. Now the goal is while we still have some warm weather, is to get the rest of this section all the way done and get it under seed, so we can get some popping of the germ, so that will carry us into March and then April. So, and then these fields back here, per se, like the eggplant, all of that will just be we'll fence it off and let the chickens in. Chickens will mow it all down. We'll get in there, pull out all the big stuff, and then we'll get ready to start planting the spring crop. So we rotate our food around the best we can. Some of our food does stay in the same spot, but we like to try and move it around the best we can. Yeah. I'll show you we have a gray water system for the barn, which basically we're capturing all the water from the microgreens grow room. And then we put in some cattail here, and you can see it's like a little mini wetlands. And then we've got Chicken Town. Now this, in the next week or two, will be cleaned out. Coops will get moved and everything will go into the greenhouse. And then we'll go in there and dig that all up and get ready to start popping tomatoes.
Do you have a rooster in there?
I've got like 10 roosters in there.
Yeah, it's like, I think
since we do our own chicking, we don't kill the birds.
Yeah. We
don't kill the males. So I've always found that having a few roosters keeps the girls all in line. They seem to do their fighting. If the rooster, we've got a rule, if the rooster's going to attack you when you go in there, he's out. He doesn't get to stay with the girls. He's out on his own. And whenever they get booted out of the coop, they don't make it but a couple of months before nature gets them. So our kumquats are coming along, even for the small trees.
Yeah, look at them. Awesome.
We've got kumquat, loquat in here. In here is where we want to promote fungus. Yeah, and of course last week being Thanksgiving, they cleaned us out pretty good. Yeah, I don't see hardly anything happening. Oh, there's some pretty ones back here.
You just rotate them?
Yeah, well, each bag will give us, 2 or 3 flushes, although I don't have enough room in here to do a full 3 flush for the bag. First flush or the first bloom is always the best and the biggest. Second one is going to be a little bit slower, and the third one's even more. So since we are, stricken with not enough room, so these are how the bags will come, basically with very little primordial root. Then we'll root them out like this, and then we'll poke holes in them. This is basically simulating the forest floor here. And then once we poke the holes in it, the fruit will pop out, and then it wants to reproduce itself.
What's rooting them out mean exactly?
Rooting them out, if you feel where this primordial root is the strongest, feel
it's
these
really tough, right?
Yeah, it's like a knuckle.
Right.
And that's where you want to poke the hole in the bag.
Okay.
And as soon as that knuckle it sees oxygen, then it pops the fruit. Because right now it's basically a one-way bag. It's all CO2 in the bag. These have patches on them. Here, these are the breather patches. And then, what we're doing now is, again, simulating it's underground on a forest floor. Okay. As soon as we show it some oxygen, then it wants to fruit to reproduce.
That's so cool. Fungus is so weird.
It is. It's really, if mankind pays attention, it could solve a lot of problems.
Seriously.
A lot of problems. These are kings. This is a little bit different species here, still in the oyster family, but it's a big giant oyster. It's a big giant. These are pink flamingos up here. You can see the pink roots coming in.
Yeah. So weird. It looks like you have ground beef in a bag.
Yeah.
But what is it?